Welcome to a Skewed Chimp.
I've been working on this piece for quite a while. I had started with this piece, which came off of my failure pile, and I made a shot glass out of it. And then I had some of it left over, so I wanted to go ahead and try to make something else. And I wasn't even sure what I would try to make, but I was hoping that it would be another shot glass with a slightly different style. I've been working on this for 2 weeks, and this is as far as I've gotten. You can see that while it's mostly done, it has suffered a little bit of damage from flying off the lathe. The reason it flew off the lathe is because I was using a 1/2-inch bull gouge, and it was a really tight spot, so it was hard to maneuver. I eventually got a catch, and it threw the piece off the lathe. So I should have been using a smaller tool, or a different tool, or something. In any case, I left off when it flew off the lathe because I needed a break mentally, and because I had other things to take care of. This week will be our last week with this project, at least for right now, one way or the other. So I think what caused that is that this is a bull gouge, and I was in there quite a bit, quite deep. I probably should have switched to a scraper, which is what I'm going to try now. Okay, I've got to hold this. I've got it pretty well hollowed out. I need to start sanding it down, I think. That's the only way to get in there for a picture of it, so that's what I had to do. You can see I'm going to have to redo the outside, so I want to leave a little bit of space there. But thankfully, there is about 1/4 of an inch lip on it still, so that gives me room to work with, both inside and out. That should be enough to get these catch marks out that I put into the sides. And so the lesson here should probably be do the inside first. If you're going to do hollowing of this type, and if you're working on stuff like this, do the inside first. It's unfortunate that everything has to be a learning experience. Okay, I got to tell you, getting this camera set so that you guys can see into this tiny little hole is not the easiest thing in the world, but for whatever it's worth, I am as deep into this thing as I can get it, so I can't go any farther towards the headstock. I'm already inside of the chuck jaws. Yes, I'm already inside of the chuck jaws. If I go deeper, I'm liable to hit pay dirt back here and catch on one of these metal pieces. So, and go all the way through the project. So from here on out, I need to widen it. Now, I think that I will start by widening it. I'm going to start by getting the outside turned to round. And then that will show me how much room I have left on the inside that I can take out to make room for the contents of whatever is going to go in this cylinder. I've been told to be about a 1/2 inch off of the project with the tool rest, so that's where I'm at. We're turning at the same speed, 2,900 RPM, 2880 technically. 2880 in the US and Canada. So here we go. That's round enough for me. Now I'm going to work on the inside. Okay, so to try to make space here, I'm going to, I know you guys can't see in there very well. It's a nightmare to see in there. I'm going to try to get in there with my, oh God, what the hell is this called? A skew chisel. Thank you. I'm a skewed chimp, a skewed chisel. And if that doesn't work, I'll use the parting tool. But since you guys can't see in there, I'm going to spare you. I did want you to be able to observe that I'm going to have to do this left-handed. That'll be a hoot. Okay, so this is how far I got. This is the sanding, and you can see these are the edges rounded. That's a nice soft edge that's going right there. A nice curved lip. But there's a tool line in here. Well, maybe not anymore. maybe I got that bastard out. Sorry to go off focus there, but maybe I got the tool line out. But there's part of it. Okay, so there's part of the tool line right there. And it's still hard to get in here and see. I've only done a 60 grit sanding up to 120. P60 to P120. And so that's the bottom of the cup, whatever it is. And it's looking good. We're on the road to recovery here. Alright, I may have been able to snatch victory from the jaws, no pun intended, of defeat. This is a Ziploc bag, and inside of it is exactly 1 1/2 ounces of salt. Just garbage salt. It's not important what kind of salt. Just salt. But the important thing is, that means that even in this baggie, it almost completely fits. Which means this will hold at least 1 ounce of whatever, which is good. Now, in addition to that, I swear to God, it's salt. At the risk of moving you too much, here. A quick peek inside shows that we've got it kind of squared out. It's relatively even along the sides. I mean, it's not perfectly even, but it's relatively even, and it's more or less cleaned out. So I'm going to start sanding it, and I mean, I might take a little bit more off of this edge, off of the lip, because that's a good, I don't know how thick that lip is. That lip is 1/8 of an inch thick, which is kind of a thick lip for a shot glass, but I kind of like that on this one. The last one was so thin. I kind of like the idea of this one being a little bit thicker, and we're almost there to fit. So I'll try to sand it down a little bit and see where we're at. And then I'll measure it out again. But I would show you guys, but there's absolutely no way that you can see anything that's going on inside of that blank while my hand is in there. Alright, it's been a lot of work, but I think I have this back to being rounded and smooth, and I've gotten all of the nicks out of it from where it got chucked across the room. I will try to hold this as still as possible. I'm in my own way. Ta-da! Ta-da! Okay, so there we go. There's some light. It looks like I was able to get all the way inside of this thing, and it's actually looking pretty good there, I feel. I figured out what is causing some of the tool marks that I was having a problem with before. It's fingernails. Fingernails on a spinning lathe are enough force and they're enough strength to make certain things to put marks in your project. So I don't generally like to move the camera around because I'm horrible at it, but frankly, not a bad looking project, really. Alright, so I'm going to finish sanding this. I happen to like watching people sand their projects, but I know not everybody does. So this is me finishing up the sanding. And I had done 60 to 120, I think. Yeah. I had done 60 grit to 120 to 220 to 500 to 1000 to 1200. And this is the 1200. And so then I just use an old sock. I mean, it's clean, but it's an old sock. And I just use that to make sure that I haven't left any dust or debris on the project that's going to cause additional scratches as I try to finish up what I'm doing. Okay, and by the way, I'm operating on... That's what I thought. I'm moving at 220 RPM, 214 really, at least that's where the belt is set, is 214 RPM. So I'm not going very quickly. I was told to sand at the lowest possible speed, so I'm doing that. I'm going to put it in reverse, which I always do for the last grit that I do. I don't do it for every grit. I just do it for the last grit. I don't know what you guys do. Go ahead and tell me. Car. Go ahead and tell me what you guys do. On the last grit, I always reverse sand just for a little bit, just to make sure that I get as much of it off of there as possible. Going both ways. Now that I was aware, or at least I think I was aware of what was actually causing a lot of the scratches that I kept finding in my work, it actually became kind of difficult for me to keep my fingernails off of this project as I continue to work inside of such a tight space. All right, I'm going to inspect that and make sure that I'm happy with it, and then I'll let you know. Okay, so here it is. I've looked it over, and I think it looks pretty good, at least from the outside. It's pretty darn smooth. Ow. Same thing there. I'm pretty happy with how all this looks. I'm gonna stop sanding now. I think all that's nice and soft. There's no tool marks in it that I can see. I was able to keep my fingernails off of it. I don't see the scratches back, so wherever they were coming from, whatever, we took care of it. So the next thing to do is to put the finish on this side, and we're just going to use a beeswax finish. I left a lot of tape on the floor here because what I was doing was turning this at the lowest speed, which is like 220 or something, 220 RPM, something like that. And it's really slow. And I wasn't able to get a good finish on it, at least not the way that I liked. So what I did is I then sped it up, and I decided if I'm not going to go slow, I'll go really fast. And so I turned it up to 2800 RPM or something, whatever the higher end of this is. And I put it on, and it started to go on actually quite nicely, and it worked very effectively. But it's not like you can see inside of the shot glass or anything anyway, so I thought I'd skip all that for you. Excuse me for a moment while I play with the lighting to see if this works better. I've got a halogen light that I had not been using in the past because it's such a power suck, and it's easy for me to throw the breaker in this garage. But in this case, I decided to give it a try, and I kind of liked it. If anybody has ever done this before, I would really appreciate the input. I want to know what speed you turn the project at if you're going to apply beeswax. I also spun the project forward and backward because I wanted to make sure that I got the finish on evenly, and I wanted to make sure I got it into all of the pores that I could, so I did it both forward and in reverse. And finally, I only put on a very light coat. I didn't put on a very deep coat because honestly, it was looking good, and the last time I tried to keep putting stuff on, it did not continue to look good. It actually got worse the more wax I put on it. But in this case, it was looking really good, so I went ahead and left it and I hadn't put much on, and I didn't push very hard. One of my friends told me that he kind of liked the video the way that I talked to myself in hindsight, like in reflection, as though I've gained some sort of insight or wisdom as a result of having done a project. And I actually have a lot to share with my past self about this project, but in this case, I can't think of a witty way to deliver that. So here's something cool to look at. I do have a question for anybody else that might know the answer. I've actually looked for this online, but I can't really find good answers. I wanted to know if putting mineral oil on underneath a beeswax finish is a good idea, and in what cases is that a good idea, and in what cases isn't it a good idea. If anybody out there happens to know, I'd appreciate that insight. If not, I'll figure it out, or I'll ask somebody or something. But if anybody knows, you could save me some trouble here. Since this is when you can't really see the finish going on for the very first time, and I'm really just buffing it, I'm going to go ahead and speed this up for you all because it's really not that entertaining, and this is going to be a long video otherwise. Okay, honestly, that looks pretty damn good to me, in my opinion. Now, I have to be really careful because once I take this off of this chuck, I'm never getting it back on, but I want to show you guys. What it looks like to me from my angle. And so there is some natural texture in the wood, but now that's not perfectly clear. I mean, there's some streaking in there, but not a whole lot. I wonder what I do about that streaking. There is some streaking, and that's got to be just from my cloth, I would think. I wonder if I can get that out of there. Let's see. Unless you're brand new to this channel, you know that me screwing around with a project that's almost done pretty much only ends one way, in catastrophe. But in this case, all I did was I turned it a little bit more and put a little bit more pressure on it to try to melt the beeswax in a little bit better. I noticed zero actual change, but it does look like the lines are a little bit finer now, doesn't it? Now, this is where it would really help me to have a more experienced person around so that I could say, should I put on more or should I stop? However, I have learned to stop. Yeah. Because once this comes out of here, I cannot put it back on. So, I mean, there's just not going to be enough space. I'm not even sure there's going to be enough space for me to finish this project. So, taking this off is the end of this. All right, here we go. Wish me luck. I got it reversed. So you can see this is the base of the cup. Here's the line that was put into it by the jaws. Here are some marks that have resulted from it being tossed around. So now here's what I plan to do to get this started. I'm going to clean this up, and I'm going to make this round as well. And then I'm going to burn this line in. Yeah, let me think this through. I really didn't expect this to be able to fit within the jaws. But it does fit, so no easy outs. You have to finish up. So I'm going to try to circle. I'm going to try to get this back to round as much as I can, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I've got it set at 2,900 RPM, and I'm going to, there's a bit of wobble there. Not going to kid you. But I'm going to have to just do the best I can do. This is wobbling a little bit compared to this. I'll try to square it up, but we'll see where that leaves us. Yeah, here we go. Even though I was able to move a lot faster on this project than on previous projects, partially because of confidence and partially because of knowledge, it still took quite a while. So I'll just go ahead and skip to the next part. Okay, that feels round. I am going to do one other thing that some of you might be like, oh no! And that's flatten out the bottom again. So I just went at it with a parting tool to try to level off the bottom. This actually took quite a while too. And that's all I wanted to do was clean up that part so that it wasn't quite as angled, quite as wobbly. And you can see it actually, even where I squared it up, it is off a little bit. So shit, now I do need to keep going. This is how it happens, guys. I've been told that sometimes I try too hard to make things perfectly when I'm not capable of making them perfect. Yeah, they're probably wrong. All right, that's good enough. I'll send it down from there. So now I can quit screwing around with it. Now you're cooking with gas. Okay, I have spared you all. I've got this sanded down to 1200, and you can see that the only real line that's visible on the work, on the project, is where the jaws had bit into it before. And so now I'm going to do my burn in, and we're going to try this, and you guys get to watch the catastrophe that is about to be. Oh, I should, yeah. Mm-hmm. This is 4 times speed, just so you're aware. Now, I only did that the tiniest bit, and you can barely see it actually. I'm going to do it a little bit more, but I might do it with a bigger one too. I think white is smallest. I also have blue and red. White is definitely the smallest. I don't know whether it's blue or red. Probably blue is bigger. I don't even know if you guys can see these, but yeah, I've got red, white, and blue. I think blue is bigger. I'm not real sure, honestly. I've never used this tool before, and so I didn't really know how it worked. Also, I got it used, and the guy who used it before me put a lot of bends in it. And I don't know if that's avoidable or if he was yanking on it too hard or what. I don't know how these are supposed to be used, but there's some curves in it, so I couldn't get it to lay down in a straight line. So I struggled with that a little bit, and obviously, if you look closely, I missed putting the line in where the jaws bit into the cup, and that will have some impact down the road here. But for now, yeah, that's the best I could do. Okay, so that got in there, and it did put the burn mark in right where I wanted it. I'm going to do one more quick sand over the top to make sure that I didn't put any accidental lines in there, and see how it goes, and then I'll go ahead and finish this part. Then I will take this off, and we'll see where we're at on the part where the jaws are now biting into the lip of the cup. Okay, I'm done sanding, and you can see I have two, they're like slightly separated lines on here. Now, ordinarily in the past, I have done things like taken a nail and rubbed it up against this to make a burn that's more substantial. And I was very tempted to do that. I mean, really tempted to do that in this case, because the two lines aren't exactly, like, see if you can zoom in. This is as zoomed in as it gets. There's a slight gap between the two lines here, but then they kind of come together pretty closely, like right here. So I don't know if that's even visible to you guys or not. And I'm very particular about it. But you can see that, the line isn't quite perfect, and I was tempted to make it a bigger burn-in line. I tried to get these things, the burn-in wires, to work, but whoever had this before me, like, really put a lot of pressure on them, so they're all bent, which is fine, except in this case, I'm trying to do some pretty precise work here, and so that's not helpful. I don't know. I need to talk myself out of messing with this thing. All right, for any of you that were taking bets as to whether or not I actually grabbed a nail and was screwing with this damn thing after I turned the camera off, you're absolutely right. Now, I managed to get away with it and not do any damage. I also didn't do anything productive, and I burnt the hell out of my hand. So I guess that's why you don't use a nail for this, because holy shnikey, that hurt. It caught me totally off guard. I was sitting there cranking away, starting to feel the power, and then it got really hot, and I grabbed it in the wrong spot, and damn, man, son of a... All right, I give up on trying to sabotage myself. I'm done trying to sabotage myself. So I'm just going to do what's this called? Beeswax now. I don't have a whole lot to share with you at this point, other than I think this is fun to watch. I did want to say that it's kind of difficult if this is your first thing and you're just trying to do the project and you haven't played with this stuff before. I don't know what's too much or what's too little, and I think I say that like 3 different times in this video, but it's nonetheless true, and it really had me stressed out because I really only get one try at this for this project. Since I'm still learning about this, I'm trying to evaluate it every step of the process to see what's working and what isn't, and see how it's going on and looks in my brain while it's being placed on compared to how it's actually looking in real life. So far, so good. The coolest part is when you first put on the beeswax, so this is 5x speed just to save some time. So there are just 2 of the very smallest lines that are bothering me just a wee bit. And I'll try to put a little bit more on here and see if that fixes it. 6x speed on this one. Oh, wow. All right, guys, you're not going to believe it. I'm happy with it. That looks pretty sharp to me. I mean, it's not absolutely perfect, but it's pretty darn perfect. And then if you look at the bottom, I mean, it's a nice finish. I got to be honest with you. Okay, so I'm going to remove this from the lathe now. Oh, dear God. And we'll see what happened on the jaws. And you can see it's actually not too bad. There's one little line that goes all the way around, and it's pretty symmetrical. So here's my options. I can try to burn that line in by remounting this, but it seems off a little bit. I don't think I can get that in there again correctly. It's like not really mounting correctly. I don't think I can get that in there where it belongs. So I can either do that, or I could just leave it. And we're talking about, I have to look through here, this tiny little line right there. Or I could go through with a wood burner and burn it in a circle. And that would be quite a challenge, I feel. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that yet. But in any case, I will say that I wanted another shot glass. I have gotten another shot glass. And I don't know if I'm going to do any more work on this or not. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this a win. Like the hero. I'm going to be the hero this time. I'm going to call this a win. And I'm going to take this in the house and I'm going to strut like a peacock and call it done for right now. And decide what to do about that tiny little line down the road. And maybe I'll do something with it, and maybe I won't. Maybe the correct thing to do is nothing. Maybe I'll burn it in. I'm really not sure. Let me think about that. In any case, to say that I'm content is an understatement. To say that this is a win, I think, is very, very safe. That is definitely a win. There's a lot that I learned from this, and if I were to do it again, it would not take a third of the time, and it would probably come out better. But I am aware that this project took a long time, and for those of you that have watched it, I appreciate that. Thank you.